and welcome to this week's episode of Dancer Talks. My name is McCall Sheets, and I'll be your host. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Meghan Faddis to our show. Meghan, can you tell me a little bit about your dance journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I started dancing when I was about 3. I grew up in a studio. I did ballet, tap, jazz until I was about 8. And then I wanted to go a little bit further, so I added on hip hop, contemporary, lyrical, and I joined my studio's dance company and I started competing. So I grew up as a competition kid, did that whole thing. And then I wanted to do musical theater. I loved that style. I loved the singing. I loved the costumes. I loved the whole production value of it. So I started auditioning for musicals, and I kind of started taking that route. And then I went to college for musical theater. I went to Indiana University, got a BFA in musical theater. So I spent 4 years there, and then right out of school, I was like, let's go to New York, let's do it, let's audition, let's see what it's like. And then, yeah, that's kind of how my journey came about.
So what have you been doing now since you came to New York?
So right when I got to New York, I was doing a lot of regional theater, so I was traveling a lot. I've worked at the Muni. I grew up in St. Louis, so I worked at the Muni since I was 8 years old. So that's always, it was really cool to work there as an adult versus when you're a kid. It's like summer camps. When you're an adult, it's adult summer camp. It's professional adult summer camp kind of. So I did the Muni a lot. I worked at Sacramento Music Circus. I did one of their full seasons. I did Kansas City Starlight, so I traveled a bunch doing regional theater. And then I was cast in Hamilton. And so then, so that was awesome. So that was a big thing that happened in New York, yeah.
What was the audition process like for Hamilton?
Oh my goodness. It was long. So I went into an open call and learned the combination, and it was a dancer call. So went in, learned the combination, ended up getting a call back, and Andy Blankenbuehler was in the room, which is super rare because usually the creative team isn't in the room yet. So I was so nervous, but I went through, we learned a few different combos, and then I didn't really hear anything, and I was actually working at the Muni, and I got a call from my agent, and they're like, hey, can you come in tomorrow for a Hamilton callback? And I was like, I can't, I'm in St. Louis, what do I do? And so they were like, it's okay, don't worry about it. And I was like, I'm not gonna book Hamilton. I just lost it because I can't go to this audition. And then a few weeks later, when I was back in New York, I got another call and they're like, they still wanna see you. And I was like, yes. So I went in again, danced again, did the same stuff. Then I got a singing callback. So we're on 4 now, callback 4. So I went into the room, sang some stuff, and then got another callback for another dancing, the same dancing stuff that I had been doing previously. So we're on 5 now. And I was like, okay, cool, hey. So, months went by, didn't hear anything. And then I'll always remember this because it was right after New Year. So it was January 7th. I get a call from my agent and he was like, Happy New Year. And I was like, you too, thank you. And he was like, guess what? I was like, what? He's like, you booked Hamilton. And I was like, haha, what do you need? And he was like, no, really, you booked Hamilton. And I was like, that's so crazy. And then I started the next day. They're like, can you start tomorrow? I was like, for sure, yeah. So then the next day, and I learned it in New York. So I walked into opened the Broadway stage door of Hamilton and was like, what's up? It was just, wow. Yeah, it was wild.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Wow. What a journey.
I know. It was just super unexpected, but it also I don't know, it was really, really cool. Crazy, but very, very cool. Yeah.
What was it like being on the national tour of Hamilton, and what was a day in the life like?
So what was really cool about being in the Chicago company of Hamilton was yes, it was technically a national tour, but we were in one spot the whole time. So I didn't have to worry about picking up my stuff and moving all the time, which I think is probably one of the hardest parts being on tour, is that you don't have like a solid place, like a place to call home. You're constantly moving. So that was actually really cool. I got to like spend time in Chicago and like get to know the area that I was living in, which I feel like isn't usually the case with tours. So that was really cool. But a day in the life was long. They're very long days, and I was a swing, so I had to learn, like during the days I would have rehearsal and then I'd have to be at the shows at night. So a lot of the time I would have like 5-hour rehearsals during the day, get a dinner break, and then go straight to the theater and spend some time working on the stuff I had just learned, and then maybe like go on, maybe not, and like either get to do the part that I just learned or do a completely different part. So every day was different, which was, I think, part of the fun of it. Like, I think that's why I enjoyed being a swing so much, because every day varied so much, but we had the like stability of staying in one city the entire time, so that there was like a comfortability level with it too. So even though it was like crazy and like really hard, it was also really nice, just like having, like being able to like go home and be home, you know? Yeah.
That's definitely a lot nicer than having to travel and pack your life in a suitcase.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, granted, I did have to like pack all my like stuff from New York and like move it all out to Chicago, but it was like a one-time move, you know? I didn't have to like do it consistently. So that was, it was really nice, definitely.
Was it a similar vibe to New York when you were there performing?
I get that question like all the time. Yes and no. Like, the city itself is like a quieter, cleaner version of New York, I would say. Like, I lived in like the downtown, so it would be like living in like Midtown, basically. It was like crazy where I lived, like really crowded all the time, but like the outskirts of Chicago aren't really that way, where a lot of my friends lived. So I would like be out there a lot too. So like, it was an interesting mix of like city life, but also like Midwestern small town kind of life at the same time, you know, which was kind of nice, like to switch it up a little bit. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
How do you prepare to audition for Broadway shows and musicals, and do you have any advice or some tips for people who want to audition?
Yeah. I know this is like so tacky, but like honestly, like being yourself when you're in an audition is the most important thing. Like, not getting caught up in the stress of all of it, because, and I'm sure that you know too, when you're in an audition, there's always going to be another audition. Like, this isn't the end all be all every single time that you're in there. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be the best all the time, because this is like the only chance we're gonna get. And that is a great mindset, to go in and be focused, of course, but to let yourself be kind to yourself and know that like there's gonna be another audition probably tomorrow, and it's gonna be okay. You know, like, we make mistakes, we're human, it's totally okay. So I guess like that's the mindset I like to have when I go into auditions, is like, focus, be prepared, do everything you can beforehand, but also know that you're human and it's okay, and like there's always tomorrow, and like just move on, keep doing your best, and you'll get to where you're supposed to be eventually.
What inspires you to keep going, especially now?
You know, this is like such a hard question for right now, because it is really hard to keep going when, especially like being in quarantine and being away from everyone, and like having our industry just like completely shut down is like unprecedented. It's something that no one has ever really had to do before. Like, we've all like been in like creative lags before, or like come to a roadblock where we like don't feel very creative, but I feel like that's the general consensus right now, which makes it super hard. So I think what's kind of kept me going is honestly seeing other people and like other people's energy and like what they're creating right now, I think is so inspiring to me, because there's like long stretches of time that I don't feel very inspired and I don't feel creative, but I see someone put out, even like, this might sound silly, but like even like a TikTok that like is really cool. It's like, whoa, like That's cool. Like, however people are using their creative energy, I think I like feed off of that, because I'm like, look, that's so cool, they're doing that, like I want to do that too. And then it inspires me to like at least like turn my brain back on and like start thinking creatively.
What do you like to do when you're not dancing or performing?
So I actually just became a mental health advocate. So I've been through advocacy training, and this is something like totally new to me. I was learning about like how the government works, how laws are made, all these things that we probably learned in like 5th grade that I didn't remember. But I was going through like weeks of training and relearning all of that stuff and really understanding like the importance of it right now. And so I've been in meetings with different Congress members and like New York officials, and like being in like the Zoom room with them and like having conversations about legislation and potential legislation. So that's honestly, aside from like dancing and trying to stay creative, I've been doing a lot of advocacy for mental health, which has really been inspiring recently. So I do a lot of that. And then I also have a fitness business. I'm a personal trainer. So lots and lots of working out in my own apartment, in my little like living room. But I have personal training clients. So I have like one-on-one meetings with clients a lot, which is super fun. And like I'll like go live on Instagram and like teach classes, and I do like group classes and stuff. So lots of working out in my little apartment. But that's kind of been the life these days, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Especially now, mental health is so important.
I agree 10,000%. And I think that like it's something that's still very taboo to talk about, which is interesting to me, because from what I've gathered from just having conversations with friends, especially in the arts, it's something that a lot of people struggle with and a lot of people have dealt with like while they're performing, or even just like being an artist in any way. It's something that a lot of people struggle with, but yet it's still a topic that is like hard for a lot of people to talk about or admit or seek help, because it's seen as like it has this negative connotation or stigma like around it, which is why I'm so passionate about mental health, is like breaking down that stigma, because we all deal with it. Like we all are like super hard on ourselves as artists, and there are resources, there are ways to people to talk to, all that kind of stuff, but yet it's usually viewed as like a problem or something wrong with you, instead of like, I deserve this for myself. It's like the negative side of it. So that's why I'm like super passionate about it, because it's so present as artists, and like we don't talk about it, you know?
And artists deserve help, and also community around that aspect.
Exactly. And I think that like the more that we're able to talk about that, and the more that we're able to have conversations and like make it more normal, then like the easier it will be to like continue to be creative and continue like to fully conceive your ideas, you know, like fully be yourself, because you're comfortable enough to do so, which is like what art is. So I think mental health is such an important part of that conversation, to like unlatch like your full potential creatively. Yeah.
Tell me about your craziest onstage moment.
Okay. Well, so it was during Hamilton. So as a swing, you learn like one track at a time. And so it was a few months in. I had probably been there for like maybe 3-4 months at that point. And I had only learned 3 of the 5 tracks that I needed to know. And I was on for the bullet. And so I'm doing it, going through the show, and at the very beginning of the second act, one of the girls got hurt and had to stop. And so, but there were no other swings in the building. It was just me. And so, but it was the one track that I didn't know yet. So I couldn't like switch over to that part. So the dance associate came up onto the deck and was backstage. And so I was doing a split track between the bullet and the other part, but I didn't know the other part. So our dance associate was in the wings, and I would run off and he'd be like, okay, see that piece of paper? Go over there, grab that piece of paper, bring it over here. Then I'll meet you on the other side, okay? I was like, okay. So I was like learning that track as the show was happening, but I was still doing the track that I was originally on for. So I was like learning a split track of a track I didn't know. So that ended up happening for like the last hour of the show. And our male dance captain like stepped in every once in a while and like covered some of it. So we were like switching on and off, but basically kind of like reworking the show like moment by moment off stage. And like I will never forget my like the dance associate just standing like right here and being like, okay, see that paper, like do this. I was like, okay. And it was like one of the craziest things, but also like probably like one of the coolest moments that's ever happened. Like I felt so accomplished by the end of it. I was like, I did that. That was awesome. But it was so funny because everyone on stage was so confused. Like no one knew who I was anymore. I didn't really know who I was. And I'd be doing something and people would look at me and be like, who are you? And I was like, I don't know. Just keep going. Yeah. It was crazy.
It's like, are you a woman too, or
I know. Everyone was like, who are you? I was like, I don't know. Just keep going.
I am me.
I know, right? I was like, I don't know. But it was really cool.
What is some advice that you would give to young dancers who want to grow up and have a career like yours?
I think it's super important to work hard. And I know that's such like a simple answer, but putting in the time is such an important thing. Like go to class, take a lot of class, and keep learning. Like you're always a student. I think that that's so important, and that plays into hard work. Is like, don't put yourself in this little box of like, I'm a ballerina, I can only do ballet. Like you are so much capable of more than just this one skill, especially in musical theater. I think that that's such a huge thing, is like be as like diverse as you can in like the styles that you know, in what you're capable of. So like take that contemporary class, take that hip hop class, even if it's scary. I know it's scary, but like do it because you'll benefit from it in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, just keep showing up, keep doing the work, and don't put yourself in a box.
All right, now it's time for the rapid fire round. Socks or heels?
Socks.
Stage or TV?
Stage.
Cardio or weights?
Weights.
Plank or sprinting?
Plank.
Pop or hip hop?
Hip hop.
Nature or city?
Nature.
Nike or Adidas?
This one's rude. Nike.
Turns or jumps?
Turns.
Zoom or FaceTime?
FaceTime.
Biggest pet peeve?
When people sneeze a lot. I don't know, it really bothers me.
Craziest thing in your dance bag?
Probably I just have a lot of dirty socks. Yikes.
Favorite food?
Cheeseburgers.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Thank you so much, Meghan, for being a part of my show. I love talking to you. It was great.
Thank you. It was awesome. I enjoyed it.
Stay tuned for our next episodes coming up, and keep dancing.